I think my most common use case for a for loop in Swift is when I am working with arrays and I want to perform some type of action on each of the elements within a given array. So just like strings are a collection of characters, arrays are a collection of objects that we can also loop through using a for loop. So let's create another array here of friends. Okay, so let's say let my friends equal, we've got Susan, we've got Bob, we've got Steven, we've got Andy, we've got Sean here. Okay, so to loop through the elements within my friends array, I'm going to say for friend, and remember, this is just a constant that we're going to be using within the scope of our for loop. So for friend in my friends, so for each element in my friends array, let's go ahead and print out. And using string interpolation, we'll use that friend property there, right? Print friend is one of my friends. Okay, so I can run this code, and we see Susan is one of my friends, and Sean is one of my friends. Now, there may be times when you want the index of each item as well. So we can do that as well by saying, okay, for index in 0 up to but less than our my friends.count. Okay, and let's kind of go through this together. So our index, so we want to find the index for each friend, and so the index is going to start at 0, right? And we're going to do 0 up to my friends.count. Okay, and the reason that we do this less than here is we wouldn't want to do 0 to my friends count, right? Because what's wrong with that is that my friends has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements in it, right? So if I did for index in 0 to 5, well, that would be 6 elements, right? And our my friends array only has 5 elements. So we only want to do up to but less than the value of my friends.count. So for index in 0 up to my friends.count, we'll say let friend, right? So we need to create a new friend constant here that we can use. But with using our subscript syntax, we can get the proper friend out by saying let friend equal my friends at whatever the index is that we just created, right? So now we can print out friend and pass in our index here is, and let's pass in our friend property here. Friend. If I could type. There we go. Okay, so now if we run this code, we'll see that friend 0 is Susan, friend 1 is Bob, and up to friend 4 is Sean. So there's another easier way to do this same kind of thing, and it's by using what's called the enumerated function. Okay, so what I can do is I can say for index and friend in my friends array dot enumerated. Okay, and let's look at the description for that, enumerated. So it returns a sequence of pairs where n represents a consecutive integer starting at 0, and x represents an element of the sequence. Okay, so that's exactly what we want, right? So n is going to be the index or the number, and then x is actually going to be the element of the my friends array. Okay, so for index and friend in my friends enumerated, then we can call, well, we can call the same thing, right? So I'll just copy and paste that here. Print friend index is this friend, and we can run the code and we see that we get the same thing. So it's challenge time. I want you to write a function that takes an array of strings along with a string and returns an integer indicating the number of times the passed in string appears in the array. Okay, so what it might look like is sorry, let me create some space here. Okay, so what this would look like is I want it to return the count. You could even think of it like names. Say you pass in an array of names, and I want the function to return the number of times a passed in name occurs inside of that array. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, work on this challenge, and then we'll go through it together. All right, so let's run through this challenge. So again, we want to find the count of a string in an array of strings, right? So that's the general purpose of this function. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new func here, and let's say count of name, and name is going to be of type string. Yeah, I'll do name. Name's a little bit easier just because I don't want to use string so much. In a passed in group of names, okay, which are going to be an array of strings. Okay, and we want this to return an integer, right? The count of the number of times it occurs. Okay, well, in order to keep a proper count, we need to have a property that can store that count. So let's say variable count of name, and we'll set it equal to 0. Okay, and then we want to loop through all of the names in this names array, right? So let's go ahead and say for, and then we could say for name in names, right? But we already have this other name property, and I don't want it to be confused with that. So let's say for matching name in my names array if my passed in name here, so if that and my matching name are equal, okay, so if name is equal to matching name, then we want to increase our count of name property, right? So count of name plus equals 1, okay? Because that means that we have a matching name, okay? So we're gonna use compound assignment to increase our count by 1, okay? And so then we'll go ahead and we'll return our count of name, okay? So let's go ahead and see if our function works. So let's create a names array. We'll say Steve was Bill. Put another Steve in there. Susan, Joanna. All right, so then let's go ahead and let's print out the count. We're going to call our function here the count of the name Steve in our names array. Okay, and we know that Steve doesn't indeed occur twice, right? Because we've got Steve and we've got Steve here. Let's print out the count of the name Paul in our names array. Okay, well, we know there aren't any Pauls in there, so that's going to be 0. Okay, and then let's print out the count of the name Bill in our names array. Run that, and we see that Bill occurs once inside of our array.